really into it.
When somebody's in the throes of a gambling addiction, it's virtually impossible for them to focus and concentrate on anything else, excuse me, especially grades. Academics play second, family plays second, your personal life plays second. The only thing that a compulsive gambler cares about is feeding his addiction.
AJ, we welcome you to the program as well, and you're in the same boat that Adam was in. You're now on the road to recovery, and is your story very similar to that of Adam's? When did you start to gamble, and what were you gambling on?
I guess I started gambling when I was about 12 or 13 years old, mostly in school, betting on sports, and when I was about 14 was my first trip to the casino, and that was my big addiction, was the casinos.
Were you able to get in at age 14?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
There was no one there to...
There was no one there, and once I got in, I'd stand at the crap table. I had comp cards by the time I was 16 to half of the casinos down there. No one would question a thing. You know, maybe I looked young, but when they saw, you know, how much I knew about the game, they said, this kid can't be underage. You know, how does he know so much about this game of craps? You know, and I started going with my grandfather, and I'm sure he thought it was just, you know, a good bonding experience, not knowing any better, not thinking I had a problem. And then when my grandfather wasn't around and I got my license at age 17, I was going down by myself, all the way up until college this year. I'm at college on a Friday night. You know, rather than doing what a normal student would do on a Friday night, I'd get in my car, drive down to Atlantic City all by myself, sometimes at 2, 3 in the morning.
Well, where did you get the money to go gambling if you're in school?
Well, I work all summer.
I see.
And I always kept my gambling money separate. I'd always, you know, I have car payments and stuff, but I'd always take money out and put it aside and say, this is my gambling money. And, you know, I'd run into binds. I mean, I ran into many binds with, you know, a bookmaker where I've owed money and didn't have the money to pay. And I had to borrow from friends, borrow from relatives. You know, always trying to keep it from my parents. They never had any idea until just recently, you know, it's a big, important step in my recovery that they were there to help me. So now they're aware, but always, it was a lot of pain to have to go through by myself without them there to help me, constantly trying to figure out how I'm going to pay someone off, where I'm going to get the money from, who I can borrow from. Do I already owe that person money still? I was running out of friends.
You'd almost need a computer to put all these people together to see whether or not you borrowed or didn't borrow from. Adam, let me go back to you again with a quick question, and that is, if we were to legalize riverboat gambling, do you visualize many of your friends going down there trying to get in, even though there will be an age limit, trying to get in on the riverboats to gamble? Do you think this is a challenge?
I don't think that age is really a problem, because being underage has never stopped myself or any of the people that I know and have gambled with in the past from getting into a casino. But I think that being the fact that college students are on a limited income, that's going to present to them an excellent, wonderful, quick and easy opportunity to gain funds to support whatever they like to do. And not only can I see college students going there and getting in a lot of trouble and using money that should be put in other places, but I could also see college students feeding other vices, and I could see the general populace on a college campus doing the same thing. So I think that if riverboat gambling is legalized in Philadelphia, it's going to cause a great decline in the academic standards that students on a college campus are trying to uphold.
Tony, I want to get back to you. Just take off with a question, a response here that Adam had made, and AJ, and that is, indeed, what is the cost? You know, we hear the headlines, well, this is entertainment. It's nothing wrong with this. Everyone should have the opportunity to go down to the riverboats and gamble. Now, you have had a good insight into what is the social cost, and maybe you can share some things with us. The fact that they steal, the fact that they take money from mortgage money and bread money. It's cost shifting, taking disposable income and other income from important household projects to use to gamble. Just give us some insight into that.
There's no doubt, as you said, there's a cost to the family. There's a cost to employers, loss of work, embezzlement, many other factors as employers. As far as the state, there's a social cost as far as the welfare rolls. There's no doubt, it's a proven fact that the welfare rolls start to go up. Manufacturings of goods, I think if the figure's right, the casinos last year was $200-something million, or in 1 month, excuse me, in 1 month of March, and that 214 million came from somewhere. It came from people who would have maybe bought a car, maybe had savings for their son's college account, maybe had money put aside for, and I get many calls from fiancés who say we were supposed to buy a house, and when we got to the settlement table, they wouldn't admit it till they got to the settlement table, and there was no money. They gambled the money away. So there are many costs. It causes suicide. Suicide. I've been to many funerals of those who have committed suicide, seen no hope. They thought their family would be better off without them. The denial that it's a gambling problem is so prevalent. And if the teenage gambling, if that could be controlled, then the prevalence of teenage gambling would not be growing at the rate that it is, and it's growing very fast, because I do speak at some high schools. And by the way, the state of Pennsylvania has some of the greatest programs for alcohol and drugs in their public schools. Not one mention of compulsive gambling. I think that should be started. But I do speak at some schools. They invite me. And I go to one school, and some of my questions are, how many gamble? And 80% of the hands, this is teenagers, raise their hand. And some of them might be showing off. It doesn't matter that much. And then I asked, how many started to gamble with their parents or grandparents? And as AJ said, 65% approximately, hands go up that they started to gamble with their parents or their grandparents. It seems like the family that stays together, plays together, is now gambling instead of doing sociable things. And I believe that without education, prevention, awareness, aside from stopping it completely, if they're going to have it, if you don't have some kind of prevention, that we're really heading for, and I'll use the word that I love to use because I see it coming, a Holocaust. In the state of Pennsylvania, slowly but surely, it's infiltrating with the lottery, off-track betting parlors, riverboat casinos. I see video poker machines. I see casinos up in the Pocono Mountains. I see Keno in restaurants in the future. But right now our concern is the riverboats and what impact will that have. And I believe it'll have a significant impact that if I just told you about 10 minutes ago that the surveys say that 360,000 citizens of Pennsylvania are either problem or compulsive gamblers, which is about 3% of the state. Once riverboat casinos come in, that figure will go up to about 5% within 3 years. And then as more gambling is instituted, that rate will go up until it becomes, like I said, a Holocaust.
Yeah. Tony, from my perspective as a legislator, we have to pass laws that are either good public policy or bad public policy. Now, as I look at this, this bill that's before us, is it good public policy for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to encourage its citizens to lose a lot of money gambling? I mean, a lot of money. As you've indicated, these casinos cannot prosper unless people lose a lot of money. There's no nickel and dime stuff here. We're talking someone wringing out their pockets on the gambling table. And AJ, I want to get back to you and do some more follow-up. As a college student, do you see your fellow students gambling? Is it talked about, or what do you see at the school that you attend here in Pennsylvania?
I see it as a problem with my fellow students. I know a lot of my fellow students that do bet, and they still continue to bet. Fortunately for me, I'm not around them anymore because that's part of my therapy. But those who bet is right there on campus. I mean, there's plenty of people that you can make a bet with on the campus for sports gambling, and there's also many students that take trips down to Atlantic City, and putting riverboat gambling in Pennsylvania would make it that much easier for them, which would encourage them even more. And I think that if they're willing to make that long trip to Atlantic City, they'll make that trip to wherever it is in Pennsylvania that twice as much.
Well, there is that high concentration of students, both at the high school level and at the university level in Philadelphia. And of course, I agree with you, is that if they put those riverboats, they can go up to 5 of them in the city of Philadelphia, if they put them down there on the ports at the Delaware River, I foresee many students being part of those 1,500 crowd. They say that each riverboat has a capacity of 1,500, and I see many young people being part of that crowd, and that to me is very, very frightening. Adam, do you have any recommendations as to what we could do in the General Assembly to help people like yourself who've been addicted and on the road to recovery? Do you have some thoughts that you can offer to not only myself as a legislator, but to young adults like yourself?
I think it's important that people such as yourself and other members of the Assembly encourage rehabilitative facilities for people to go to, because, like Tony said, there's hundreds of places for drug addicts and alcoholics to go to find treatment. But for somebody who's addicted to gambling, they don't see those help signs as easier as someone who is addicted to drugs would see. I've seen advertisements on the L and on the subway in Philadelphia for treatment centers, but for gambling, a compulsive gambler will continue to gamble and gamble and gamble until he's reached his rock bottom. And if there's treatment centers and rehabilitation available, then hopefully that'll make things that much easier to help stop.
Yeah. Tony, one of the things that I think that we look at, and I don't think the public is really aware of, is that when people put together a riverboat gambling or any kind of casino gambling, that the odds are against them in many ways, not only in the payoffs of the machines, but in the psychology, the way the rooms are set up. There are no clocks, there are no windows. The people are encouraged to gamble. I think some of the casinos give them alcohol while they're gambling. They give them weekend suites and say if they're a high roller and they've lost lots of money, they want to bring them back, and they provide car service for them. I don't think these little things of favoritism that these casinos provide, the public is aware of that, but they certainly know. They know that the casino corporations know that this is a way to get people in. And I think people should be aware of that as well. It's not only like, well, we're just going to go down there, but once you're there, the bait is there. I mean, it's a juicy bait. And then once you get hooked, it could be tragic.
They certainly do spend millions of dollars a year on marketing. There's no doubt about that. One of the things that we've noticed at the council is that they advertise every day and every weekend, but we found out that their really good push and some of the giveaways and some of the bigger advertisements are around the first of the month when senior citizens get their checks. Some of the big advertisement is at that point. So they know exactly what they're doing. They know, as you said, no windows, no clocks. They sell you a fantasy. They sell you a dream. And citizens of Pennsylvania trying to struggle through the day, trying to hug their families, that dream sounds so appealing. And what will happen is they'll inundate homes with a mailing to entice you to come. Groups will start sending buses. And these are people who never gambled probably, and all of a sudden buses will start going to the riverboat casinos. And there's an argument that hey, so what? They'll go to Atlantic City. And the statement was made also, if they hit him over the head in Atlantic City, do we need to hit him over the head here in Pennsylvania? Is that our purpose?
Yeah, another question is this. We have learned that in addition to the regular casinos, that there's new technology will allow people to gamble from their homes. That this telecommunications system coming in where you can pick up the phone and you'll be able to gamble by watching a monitor on television. I mean, isn't this absurd, bizarre, that we are going to even further do what we should not be doing to the good citizens of Pennsylvania by allowing to make it much easier for them?
It's strange that you should bring that up because I just received a card from a friend of mine who brought to my attention the racetracks. Philadelphia Racetrack has they sent out, again, a large mailing for what's called phone bet. You dial 1-800 phone bet, and you can bet over the telephone any race you want. And you have to be 18 years old, but they can't tell over the telephone how old you are. So if you have your parents' Social Security number, you can bet and bet and bet. And it can go on and on and on. And if you can do that, and you can bet a lottery, and you go to off-track betting parlors, we're certainly introducing them to gamble. In fact, we're selling a message. Pennsylvania, state of Pennsylvania is selling a message: you must play every day to win. And if the casinos, if the state of Pennsylvania starts to put limitations on the riverboat casinos to protect the citizen, it won't take very long before those casinos, because the state will become dependent on their revenues, it won't be long before those riverboats will start to control what the state does. It happened in Atlantic City with the 24 hours. The casino commission tried to protect the public, and I hear a lot. Tony, I used to be able to go, and at 2 in the morning they close up, and or 4 in the morning, and I had till 10 o'clock next morning to think about what I was doing.
Yeah.
Now, 24 hours, so the casinos get what they want.
Exactly.
And that could possibly happen in the state of Pennsylvania. And again, I think I'll say it for the 3rd time, and I'll say it 1,000 times. I really think there should be no future gambling in the state of Pennsylvania unless the state becomes socially and morally responsible for those who become addicted through education, awareness, and prevention. See, that's the key word. It's not only treatable, but for some, it's preventable.
Sure.
And if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to be responsible or socially responsible, then don't do it.
AJ, I want to come back to you, and we'll talk a minute or two about young adults and what kind of young adults gamble. Let me be more specific. Gambling shows no preference for age. Well, we're talking about from 21 and under, age or sex or religion or creed or color. Anyone can be addicted. Isn't this true? You can be very wealthy or be very poor. And in fact, sometimes the poorest are the worst who are hit by gambling. Have you noticed that in your experience and observation?
Yes, I have. From the groups that I'm going to, I see people that have the same exact problem I have, yet the only thing that differs in our stories is the amounts of money. You know, there's people that are middle-aged that have a lot more money than I do because I'm a student, I'm on a tighter budget, yet the problem is still the same. It's just the amounts of money that they're losing. You know, whether I can lose a smaller amount than they can and be just as broke as they are, though, and they could lose a larger amount. But, I mean, it doesn't really matter the amounts. It's the addiction, it's a sickness that you just feel that you need to gamble and you have to gamble to get through your day.
And it could be the young ladies as well as the young men. I mean, I would think some of them can get into the habit as well. Yeah, I mean, it's just anyone who sees the temptation in front of them and decides to try it once, maybe trying it a 2nd or 3rd time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me as an 18-year-old kid, when I went down to the casinos and I got a comp card and I was getting free dinners and sometimes I get a free room, when you get something like that, you feel special. It made me feel like I was important at that point. When, like you just talked about before, that was just luring me in. It was just making my problem worse. It was making me come back that more often.
Adam, when you were in school, in high school, and you were gambling, would you feel peer pressure? Were there many of you, or wasn't that really a problem? It was just something that you felt that if I could gamble and win, that would somehow increase my importance, it would build up my ego.
You could walk into a secluded hallway or perhaps a restroom in my high school and see people throwing dice against the wall with hundreds of dollars on the floor.
Hundreds of dollars?
Hundreds of dollars, with somebody looking outside the door for the hall monitors or staff, and there'd be people playing all day, not going to class. So if you're in the midst of that and you're part of those people, then you know you're someone who's talked about. You're blown up, brought into the bigger picture. You know, you're the big fish in the big school, as opposed to the little fish in the big school. So peer pressure is a big part of it. I never gambled by myself in the beginning. It was always, hey, let's just go get something for nothing. Let's go out and get some extra money so we can go do this and that. And it was always with my friends. And if we would lose and I would lose the $10 I had in my pocket, hey, Adam, don't you have $10 at home you could grab? And you would go home and you would grab it and you would lose that too. and then maybe you'd be upset with yourself, and then 3 days later say, hey, I bet you it's my turn to win. I've lost twice already, you know, it's my turn, I'm ready.
Well, let me ask you a question. You had said that they gamble all day. Did these gambling activities take place every school day, or were there times in which it may have been quieted down?
Sure, there's time, you know, like high school students' resources only last so far. However, it was prevalent and it was dominant, and it was open for people with money, you know?
Yeah. You know, Tony, we talk about preserving our youth and the citizens of this great state, and we have many programs that in which we try to tell them about alcohol abuse and drug abuse, and you just mentioned some of that. And yet, where we seem to be lax is this thing in trying to deal with those who are compulsive gamblers who have been addicted to it. And if we're going to save this group of citizens, we need to really get on the ball and start doing something more positive. And that's where you come in as the president of this association here in Pennsylvania that deals with it. Maybe you have a word of advice to the legislators. You've said it, but I think to say it one more time is that support is needed, you know, for the work that you're involved with.
Yeah, we've been in existence for 10 years, and we have a hotline. It's not 800 yet, but it's a hotline, and the phone calls keep coming in. And we try to be responsible, and there is no charge for anything that we do. Any service that we provide, there is no charge, and it's all done through individual donations to our organization. But we need the state to now be responsible. We talk about Philadelphia talking about $200 to $300 million startup taxes, and they might inflate those. And then parents like AJ's and Adams, their thought is, well, he's not taking drugs, he's not drinking, all he's doing is gambling until the television's missing, until bank checks missing. And we need to educate and prevent those things from happening. And it can be preventable. For the state to sit back and say, well, they're going to do it anyway, is not good enough.
Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Adam and AJ. That's all the time we have for today's program. I'd like to thank my guests, Tony Milillo, Adam, and AJ, for taking the time to educate the public about compulsive gambling. I'm Representative Paul Clymer. If you have any questions about today's topic or any other state-related matter, please contact my district office. The address will be on the screen following this program. Thanks for watching, and tune in again next time for another legislative report.